If you was a real mechanic, you wouldn't wear no gloves. Today we're talking about wearing gloves while you're working on cars. If you've watched any of my repair videos, you've probably seen me wearing gloves while I was doing that job. As a technician or mechanic, whatever you prefer, I almost always wore gloves. There was only a couple of scenarios where I wouldn't wear gloves to do a job. And there was a handful of reasons. Working on cars, you come in contact with a lot of nasty stuff. Coolant, brake fluid, which is probably one of the worst, gear oil, engine oil, fuel, diesel fuel, all the cleaners and nasty, nasty stuff. There's so much nasty business that gets on our hands as we're working on cars. To me, it was a no-brainer to wear gloves. Your skin, right? Skin is the largest organ on your body. Why wouldn't you want to do what you could do to protect it? The other protection for myself was because people are gross in their car. Think about what you're touching when you get in someone else's car. You're touching the door handle, the steering wheel, the shifter, right? The inner door handle, the seat belt. There's a picture I have somewhere of a Beetle where the whole side of the driver's side seat is covered in boogers. Right? It's just like, seriously, it's disgusting. So I was wearing gloves not only to protect my skin from the nasty stuff that cars have, but from the nasty stuff that people do, picking their nose, picking their teeth, biting their nails, and then putting their hands on the wheel. It's a germ factory inside of most people's cars. In addition to that, oftentimes working on cars, you're working on the outside, doing an oil change, get oil on your hands, and then you have to get back in that car to pull it out of the shop. Well, I didn't always want to stop and wash my hands 7, 8, 12, 15 times a day, so I would wear gloves, I would do the job, I would take the gloves off and pull the car out, or if I was switching between the interior and the exterior of the car, I would then also swap gloves, because it's really easy to just put another pair of gloves on. It's not so easy to get that grease stain off of that corn silk beige seat that customer has that's called beige, but it's so light it's almost white. Now to me, that's 3 reasons that just make complete sense of why you would wear gloves. Now, the one job that I very rarely wore gloves for was doing in-depth wiring repairs. If I'm doing one wiring repair, probably not going to take my gloves off, but if I'm doing multiples, I always took my gloves off. And I did feel like I had better dexterity and feel on a wire without gloves on. In addition to that, working with tape and gloves can be challenging because the tape always stuck to the glove and then, would either tear the glove or wreck the piece of tape. But the notion of a real mechanic doesn't wear gloves, to me, is just insane. I don't even understand why someone would say, I get why they would say it, I guess, but I don't understand why they would mean that. Who cares if the technician next to you is wearing gloves if that's what they want to do in order to make sure that they're fixing the car correctly? Again, it's a protection of your hands from the nasty stuff on cars and the gross things that people do inside of their car. Also, the soaps that we wash our hands in all the time can be pretty aggressive towards our skin. Dry your hands out, and as you guys know, that can cause cracking and it hurts, and I don't mean to sound like a crybaby about it, but when your job is to work with your hands all day long, you guys we need to do a better job of protecting them and keeping them in as good of health as we possibly can. And wearing gloves is one way. Now, I like to wear gloves like this. These are latex gloves. I'll put a link down in the description if you want them. These are sort of my go-to favorites. And that would be when I was doing pretty much any job, timing belt, brake job, diagnosis, whatever, I would usually wear latex gloves. Now, if I'm in something like fuel, diesel or gasoline, or brake fluid or something like that, I would usually switch over to the nitrile style because they are much more chemical resistant. There's also gloves like these, which I very rarely wore these. Now, if this is the kind of glove that you're thinking of when you think of technicians or mechanics wearing gloves, I understand what you're saying. It's hard to grab a tiny bolt, or it's hard to unplug a connector and really get your hand on there. I totally get it. So for me, gloves like this were often for things like tire rotation, suspension work, working on cold or hot parts, or something that might be sharp, like a Chrysler cylinder head, or a transmission or an exhaust that you just cut, something like that. this is the style I would prefer. Even though I've spent most of my career in the automotive industry, I do have a lot of people that I know and close friends in other trade style industries. And what fascinates me is the automotive industry seems to be one of the worst at safety for the individual. So if you take something like construction, there's all kinds of regulations and rules that have to be followed. I'm not making a case for more regulations and rules, believe me, but what I am making a case for is for us to take our health quite a bit more seriously than we do. Even I've done a lot of dumb things without safety glasses, without a respirator. I mean, a respirator probably wouldn't do me too good right now anyway, but I think we really need to take a step back and focus on that safety. That may slow us down a little bit in the short term, but I think in the long run, it's really gonna pay off. I'm a fan of wearing gloves. Doesn't really matter what the job is. You may have to go through 4, 5, 6 different brands of gloves in order to find ones that fit you properly, let you have the dexterity, the feel of what you're doing, all while protecting your hands from nasty, nasty stuff. I also always encourage the new guys, hey, put some gloves on. There's no reason that you're going to get your hands perma-dirty and then take that dirt and transfer it into a customer's really nice, clean car. Ultimately, it's gonna be your decision. And I truly do care about the health and well-being of my fellow technicians out there. But it's your choice. If you don't wanna wear gloves and you can work on cars and not get the customer's car dirty, cool, do that. But I highly recommend you take a step back and really analyze what you're getting on your hands and how nasty that stuff can be, and understand you don't have to do that. There's solutions to help protect you while you're working from all the nasty, nasty stuff, including, again, the gross things that customers do. So what is your take? Do you wear gloves? Do you not wear gloves? Do you say the phrase, real mechanics don't wear no gloves? But for me, I like to wear gloves, and these glove works actually are really awesome, and they look super cool while you're filming. So guys, drop your thoughts down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Also, when you wear gloves, you get to do this, which is fun.